Okay, so this is Lou Martin, and I am here with the ethereal, the brave, and the not entirely well rested Theresa Luttenegger. Good morning.
Good morning, Lou. Good to see you.
Thank you, honey. You too. Yes. So I'll just get started here because Theresa, of course, you put this wonderful post here, and do you mind if I read it just to kind of give us a
No,
little,
no.
yeah, a little runway, we might say here to blast off from. Okay,
Thanks.
pleasure. So this was from November 24th, 2 days ago. She says, Teresa wrote here, a gorgeous, bright, and crisp hike to and around Sand Flat today. This is, of course, the area of Mount Shasta, which is one of the most magical places on the planet. Um, she says, this is one of my favorite spots on the mountain. And though I was the only human in sight, interdimensional traffic was brisk as usual. This is where Teresa hooks me every time. All year, messages from the inner higher planes have been subtler and more cryptic, very difficult to translate linearly than in years prior. Still, there has been a clear and relentless theme of Christmas being just around the corner. She says, I've not felt that the calendar time of late December was being referenced, although I've questioned that recently, but rather I felt, and this is what really hooked me, a childlike anticipation of unwrapping the presents as gifts and presents as spirit, both spellings. We are gifting ourselves, and that sense of surprise, magic, and wonder have been highlighted consistently. She says, in spite of this year-long theme of Christmas, I did not expect to receive the gifts I received today at the Telos portal. And we can talk about that. After dropping in, I literally stepped and sunk into a hole under the snow. Now's where it gets really exciting. She says, I was greeted by two Lemurians, invited to lie down in the snow and journey with them. For me, this was not unusual, nor do I need to be at such physical portals in order to journey, although it is always so lovingly supportive. She says, when I returned fully to the Earth's surface, but before I opened my eyes, I became aware of being surrounded by a circle of elfin beings who were looking curiously down upon me. They were, but they were projecting their energy to appear like the Who's from Whoville in The Grinch Who Stole Christmas. This is where everyone's inner child leaps for joy, mine included. Okay, she says, okay, I know I've had some weird experiences. Oh, really? But I couldn't help but crack up about this one. I felt a bit like a test subject on a laboratory slab, but was clearly being lovingly supported as well as examined. 2 seconds later, I hear Fores, Dahu Doris, Welcome Christmas, Come This Way. The lyrics from the Who song there in The Grinch. At that point, I really questioned my sanity. Elves, no problem. They're part of my tribe. But elves projecting themselves as Who's in Whoville? Good. My hologram and clearly my mind is a bit tutti frutti. Bless you. And finally, she says, but I tell you, as clear as that big blue sky enveloping that big white mountain, I was enveloped by the magic and innocence of the child's heart, who knows beyond a doubt Christmas Day is dawning, and Grinch can steal all the presents under the tree, but he cannot stop Christmas. And then Teresa ended this with the quote from the book, the story here. And what happened then? Well, in Whoville, they say that the Grinch's small heart grew 3 sizes that day. And then the true meaning of Christmas came through, and the Grinch found the strength of 10 Grinches plus two. Hey, how about that? You tell a good story, my friend.
Well, Dr. Seuss tells a good story. Dr.
Yes,
Seuss, yeah,
yes,
master storyteller. Yeah.
absolutely, absolutely. So, what do you want to say about all that? That just sounds so magical and wonderful.
Well, it's actually really lovely to hear you read it to me. A lot of times, what happens for me when I go through those kinds of experiences, they come and they just completely dissolve, and I forget about them. I literally, um, my vibration was very raised in that time period, and I it was very as real as our conversation was to,
Right.
you know,
Right.
um, that was as real to me as this is.
Right.
Um, but, I have a human part too, and so I do
Uh,
the dishes and I take the cat out and, I just I sometimes forget, even though I'm quite capable of a very mystical life and
yeah.
consistently have mystical experiences. It was really nice to have that read because I had a hard couple days, and so it really
Oh,
opened my heart again. And
good.
I'm just like everyone else, where
Sure.
it's easy to get caught up in
The world.
well, I don't get so caught up in the external hologram in terms of the collective. That's not really a trigger for me, but
Right.
my own physical existence, at
Sure.
times that's
Sure.
probably been the biggest challenge for me is my own physical existence in terms of triggers. And yeah, I can get caught up in them and believe them to be as dense as the human mind wants to tell us, just like everybody else. So
Sure. Sure.
yeah, so it's good to be reminded of my own magic and
Yeah.
everyone's magic. And yeah.
Yeah. Well, and bless you. That's lovely to hear. I mean, divine timing for us, and as you said before we got on, we trust these divine appointments, have a higher purpose, and we're just showing up and let what needs to happen happen.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah. Go ahead.
yeah, so. I mean, my friend Annie, who I read this to, she, of course, it turns out her favorite thing in the whole universe, evidently, is the Grinch Who Stole Christmas, and her inner child was having tears of happy joy when I read this to her. And Annie also is gifted to see the fairies and chat with them. And as I said earlier, I'm not in that club yet. Uh, so you magical beings who are meeting Lemurians and chatting with fairies and all that, I feel I have a lot to learn from you folks. So
Mm.
sure we all
You know
do.
yeah, well, it's just there are all these levels and layers of reality, and honestly, from my perspective, there's no one layer or dimensional reality that's, better or closer to God. Even
Sure.
even though it can look like a shit show on this planet sometimes if you look
Yes,
at
yeah.
yeah, from different perspectives.
Sure.
Um,
Sure.
there's such extraordinary sacredness here, even in our density, right? Even in our density, this too is God in an expression of itself, of source and expression of itself. So I for years when I was in my 30s into my 40s, I studied with a Buddhist master, Tibetan, and
Right.
he always used to say about like being able to speak to the multidimensional beings or to be able to. There were a lot of siddhis, siddhi
Yes.
powers or
Yes.
gifts, right?
Yeah.
He always used to say that like what I can do is an ordinary gift, an ordinary siddhi.
Okay.
He would say that the extraordinary siddhi, the supreme siddhi, is bodhicitta, which is the awakened heart mind, the heart mind who sees through all appearances as phenomenal, as arising and dissolving and having no um,
Permanence.
permanence,
Yeah.
solidity.
Yeah.
And so it was interesting because at that time I didn't understand. I was a lot more awake than I understood, but I didn't trust a lot of my psychic impressions. And
Okay.
but he was constantly showing us, not in any flamboyant way, like you'd just catch him out of the corner of your eye and you'd see him shapeshift, or you'd see him call in the weather. He had grown
Wow.
up in Tibet, and his father
Right.
was they called him a weatherman, meaning his father could control the weather in the
Right.
entire region
Wow.
where they lived. And Rinpoche was a recognized reincarnation of a master, and he, by the age of 3, he was leaving his footprints in solid stone. So his cities, his
Yeah.
memory of his source nature, Buddha nature, came through even as a child. So, but he
Wow,
used to say,
amazing.
this is ordinary. This is an ordinary gift. And the true gift, and I say this to people who might be interested in cultivating their psychic senses, is
Yeah,
it's fun. It's its own gift. It is a gift, and I receive it as such, and I'm grateful for it. And it's not, from my perspective, not the mark of ultimate realization on in any level.
sure,
Uh,
sure, sure.
yeah, yeah, yeah. And so it's a beautiful gift. I love
Yes.
to play. There are many beings I've played with over the
Yeah,
years.
yeah, yeah. Yeah,
And yeah, yeah. And you get to play with the people you interview, with other
sure,
musicians, with your
sure,
friends.
sure.
And those beings are also magical.
Sure, sure, absolutely, absolutely. Well, that was humble and gorgeous and insightful and inspiring, truly. And I'm very grateful for that beautiful sharing. Um, my sense, let me just say this, and then I want to ask you for your sense about things. Um, do you know Aluna Joy Yaxkin from Sedona?
I don't know her personally, but I have in past years I've read her updates. Now I haven't kept up with her work lately.
Well, the latest one is a whopper, and it's and Patricia Cota Robles is another teacher that I'm following,
Mhm.
and so Patricia had a beautiful presentation on 11/11, where she and Rita Melchizedek and this new teacher called that I hadn't known before called Addie Green Tara, who seems to be based in Sedona or was for the video, is talking about this 40-day period from the 11/11 to the solstice. And so, it just seems to be quite a powerful time of purification
Oh,
and surrender.
extraordinary.
Yeah. So
Yeah,
yeah, I just thought I would bring that up and ask for any thoughts you have.
yeah,
Your
yeah. I mean, it's for a while I've seen November and December as just kind of um, that I was given really clear instructions to stay here in Shasta, to not leave, even though I actually wanted to leave and had made tentative plans to go away, to go south for the winter. That all fell through, and was like, no. For me, I'm being held in this container, which is the Shasta Fields, which is an amazing container, and it's
Yeah,
very intense too.
yeah,
But there was like a kind of a non-negotiable. I mean, we always have free will to some extent, but you know, um, the part of us, the spirit, has its way of keeping us
sure,
or getting us where we need to be, or keeping us. And so, no, I've known for a while this would be an extraordinary upgrade or integration, or I don't even like these words anymore because our minds want to take a hold of them and think that they know what it means. And the clearest instructions I've been receiving lately is let yourself feel the excitement, let yourself feel the joy, and let go of all of the ideas of what you think ascension means, of what you
yeah,
think.
yeah,
And I'm getting pounded in the head with this right now. Like this really, and my own expectations are I always come up short. The ego wants to
control.
co-opt all of this, and
Yeah,
even when
sure,
we're pure of heart, the ego mind, probably except for rare people who don't, maybe their ego or their minds are so in stillness all the time, they're not trying to co-opt their ascension journey,
yeah,
but mine's
yeah,
still active, and it wants to
uh,
tell me. My mind wants to tell me, well, this is what it's going to be like, or
right.
I don't know what the hell it's going to look like. I've been given previews for decades, starting
Yes.
when I was 17.
Wow,
Like whole download about ascension when I was a Catholic girl in the Midwest in
wow,
Iowa, and got like just an extraordinary download of what we call ascension or embodiment or whatever. I
right,
didn't have words for those things. So over the years, many previews,
right.
and none of it, with a very few exceptions, has looked like I thought it was going to look. But
Sure.
when you get to the heart essence of it,
Yes.
it's true, right? The feeling of it, the essence of it. has been consistently true.
Yeah.
But the way the mind interprets the light data is it will skew it because we don't have any reference points for what we're doing. The mind has no reference points.
Sure.
It's only the heart that
Yeah.
has any sort of freaking clue.
Yeah, honey. No, I 100% agree with that, and that's
Yeah,
beautifully said. And I'd love to hear about your 17-year-old Catholic self in Iowa, with the earth shaking beneath your feet and the winds
right.
of awakening in spirit and Magdalene and Jesus rocking your world there.
Yeah. Well, gosh, yeah, I went to Catholic school for um, all through high school and college, Catholic college,
You
and
have
right.
you have my condolences.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
I
It
know it was,
was
wasn't it?
it was its own perfect, horrible
Okay.
conditioning, and
Yes.
its own
Yes.
perfect, horrible, education too. I mean,
Yeah.
there are actually things I really take from it that I value now. I don't curse it now. But,
That's
yeah,
good.
you have to unlearn so much. You have to
Yeah.
unlearn so much.
Yeah.
But, I was 17, I wasn't particularly religious. I was trying to be a good girl, and I was following my parents' rules and trying to fit in and be loved like every other kid on the planet.
Right.
And, I think
Right.
it was the sophomore or junior year, it must have been my junior year beginning, and I was thinking about where I know I was worked up because I didn't know what to do in college. Like I knew I would go, I was a good student. And I think I was really holding that question, like, what do I do with my life for the first time?
Yeah.
Excuse me. And for and I don't remember if I prayed at that point. I don't know. I might have, but
Yeah.
for 3 nights in a row, um, out of the blue, out of nowhere, it just a massive presence of light entered
Wow.
my bedroom,
Yeah.
and I believe now it was my own higher self, but I didn't have that concept at 17, and
Sure.
I only thought I just thought it was God, and
Sure.
it
Close
was
enough.
scary. Pardon?
Right. Close enough.
Yeah, very
Yeah.
close enough,
Yeah.
right? That's it. It
Yes.
was my
Yeah.
God self.
Yeah.
And
Yes.
for 3 nights in a row, I received visions, basically a download of what ascension is, and but with no intellectual framework for this.
Right.
So at the end of the third, and also there were visions about needing to get to Africa, to East Africa, which Theresa Luttenegger had no concept of Africa at all, but I saw
Right.
very specific scenes, and I knew I was given the information. The way my mind took that information at that point was, we have to save the world. That was like
Wow.
that's what a
Okay.
17-year-old mind does with like, oh my God, if
Sure.
we don't do this, the world's going to die, and
Yeah.
people are going to die,
Yeah.
and but also I saw this whole thing is complete, like the dawning of incredible, like all of that light that was in the room with me was going to envelop the planet, and I saw it as being done already. So
Wow.
I couldn't reconcile, you have to do this with it's already done. That was just too much for my 17-year-old self to even, I'm 57 now.
Yeah.
It's still like to
Yeah.
hold
Yes,
the
dear.
room in my heart, right? It's so at the
It's
end of
hard at 64. I'll tell you right now. Yeah.
so at the end of that third night, each night I was in tears. And I had always heard from non-physical beings, but I just shoved that down when I got older. I remember conscious contact with ETs when I was a child.
Wow.
But I just wrote it off as I made it up. It's not real. And
Right.
so probably from about the age of 7 or 8 until 17, I just over here,
Yeah.
it's not go
Yeah.
away.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I couldn't ignore it anymore, and at the end of the 3rd night, I went downstairs to my parents. It was the middle of the night, and I woke them up, and I sobbed and sobbed and sobbed, and I said, "I have to get to
Wow.
Africa. I have to get to Africa, and I'm here to save the world," and I'm sure they thought I was crackers, just not.
Yes, you are. Yes.
And and
Wasn't what they were
say
yeah,
again?
wasn't what they were expecting you to
No,
say.
no, and they were not at all equipped, to deal with that, and, bless their hearts, of course, they wouldn't have been, and
Huh, huh.
yeah, so, that's the short story of it, is that, and I never forgot it, I never sublimated it after that, and that call to Africa, um, and that sense of being in service, it was a profound sense of being in service, like, you have to love the world, you have to love the world, love it, don't leave it, give it everything you have from your heart. Um,
Yeah,
that shaped my entire life, those 3
yeah,
nights in 17. Yeah,
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 yeah.
yeah, and
Well,
so
that's
I would say almost every decision I made from there
yeah,
out and out was affected, not directly, but it was affected by that experience, and,
sure.
yeah.
Yeah. Beautiful, beautiful.
Mhm.
Well, I have to ask, did you make it to Africa, or is that still
3 times, and,
wow,
the by the 3rd time, I knew I was being called in, by, many beings, but on the physical plane, 2 friends and I were being called in, by a group of 12 Kikuyu, which is an East African tribe, shaman, which they I didn't had never spoken to them in the physical. They knew we existed. I knew they existed, and there was a lot of telepathic communication going on. But the story was so unbelievable to my mind. I had to, even though I'm very psychic, my one of my friends who went with me is a hypnotherapist, and she would take me under, and I would have to go under in order to channel all the information I needed to get there, because Teresa's disbelief was getting in the way. And but the
wow,
long story short is that we unlocked and reactivated a master Atlantean crystal that's higher dimensional. So you can't see it in the physical, but it's aligned with with Mount Kenya. And the 12 shaman knew we were coming, even though we had no idea, or we had no verbal communication.
yeah,
And so we showed up at a peace um, circumambulation of the mountain, and without any communication, they knew we were coming, and we knew they were waiting for us. And indeed, they were there. And
wow,
it was fun.
that's
Mhm.
yeah,
Yeah,
that's big.
it was big. It was big even for me. And after many years of having done a lot of psychic work and I'd had it confirmed on many levels, I still, to this day, it blows me away that we showed up at this prayer vigil, and there they were waiting for us, and we
Yeah,
had never spoken to each other. And
yeah,
yeah,
wow,
so it was,
beautiful.
yeah. So that was a culmination of part of my journey, was like everything I went through got me to be able to get to Kenya
Yeah,
and reactivate this crystal, which is part of our own inherent creation templates, our original unsullied DNA. So,
right.
we talk about external crystals and the crystals of Atlantis that were used for really high technology, and also that ended up causing the destruction to the planet. Um, and the misuse of that technology. But then also we have the inner crystalline technology in in our own DNA. And so it's weird to talk about it, because there's a very external story, hologram going on, and it's
Yeah,
consensual reality for some of us, right?
right,
So it was very real. There were 12 shaman waiting for us on a mountain, and they knew why we were there. And through their lineage, they were guardians of this crystalline technology.
right,
And and also, it's a metaphor for going to the motherland, Africa, for
yeah,
going home to a higher dimensional realm and activating our own creation codes within our original pure
right,
Eden template, really.
right.
So, yeah.
Is that all? Yeah. Uh, geez.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, let me just scoop myself off the floor. Yeah, carry on.
Yeah.
Don't
So, I mean, it's even hard now. I've talked to people about this, but I've not spent a lot of time sharing about it publicly because even now it blows my mind, right? Even
yeah,
now, so everything that I saw and experienced, and I had been doing what we call grid work or grid keeping for about
yeah,
4 years, consciously been doing it. I've always probably done it on some level, not being conscious of it. And a lot of it was, long distance, meaning I would wake up in the night, either in my dream time or I'd often be awake because I'd get the information. But some other aspect of me would be on different parts of the globe, either reopening or reclaiming stargates, physical stargates, magnetic stargates, or activating crystalline structures on the planet. And then when 20 in 2017 I started traveling abroad, and I went to Europe 3 times and Africa 3 times, very specifically to activate higher dimensional, very large crystalline pyramids and temples on the planet. And I remembered those from other lifetimes by that point, but even getting to Kenya it still blows my mind. It's a lot for a human to hold, right?
yeah. Putting it
Yeah.
mildly. Yeah. No, that's brilliant. I mean, excuse me. I think of Drunvalo Melchizedek and his book Serpent of Light, where I don't know if you know Drunvalo or his teachings. Oh, well, he's fascinating.
Mhm.
Yeah, and he's had he tells of similar experiences. Of meeting the indigenous elders and the shaman, etc. And nothing being arranged on the physical at all of it being telepathic and
That's it.
in
That's it.
spirit,
Yeah.
and waiting for a sign from spirit, a condor to fly down among them or something, and
Yeah.
okay, Divine Mother says this is a go, so here we
Mhm.
go, take the next step.
That's it.
Um,
Yeah.
you know,
That's
uh,
it. Yeah.
Amazing.
It's it. That's it. And the two friends that I traveled there with, Beth, who is a native Kenyan, she actually lives in Ireland outside of Dublin
Oh,
now. She's lived in Ireland for many years.
great.
She helped a lot because her family was still in Kenya, and so they were just navigating, even though they're mostly English speaking. There was a
Wow.
lot of cultural things to navigate. And then David, who is my other friend who went, also lives here in Mount Shasta. He
Yeah.
was recognized as the 13th shaman.
Wow.
Yeah. So,
Yeah.
yeah. So and I have friends among me who've also been called in by indigenous keepers. A lot of the indigenous lineages have held this wisdom for eons, right? After the fall of Atlantis, a lot of the higher level wisdom it was scattered throughout the globe into little pockets that basically went into hiding, right?
Sure.
And because it was not the beginning of dissension, but it was the darkening of the light,
Sure.
and we were already playing in our shadow heavily by the end of the probably hundred of thousands of years in linear time of Atlantis.
Yeah.
But then we were really looking at the darkening of our light. And so a lot of the light technology, the inner light technology, was hidden and secreted and held in tribes. And the Hopi say that after the fall of Atlantis, the 4 major tribes that carried the creation technology, the higher dimensional technology, were the Hopi, the Kikuyu, this East
Yeah.
African tribe, the Tibetans, and a Swiss mountain dwelling people that I've never heard anyone. I've heard the Hopi write about them, but I've never heard anyone talk about like it would be white, but like more or Celtic indigenous lineage in the Swiss mountains.
Wow.
And
You got
the Hopis say that there were literally 8 tablets Um, and the Kikuyu say that they're real, that they're actually physical tablets, almost like, God
Yeah,
handed to Moses.
yeah,
But I've always thought of them as like higher dimensional transmissions that were handed to each tribe. And so no one kind of got the full transmission, but they each
yeah.
secreted it away. Yeah.
Mhm, mhm.
So anyway, but
Yeah. No, that's lovely, honey. I mean,
what do you say? I mean,
yeah,
it's I think it's still amazing to me who we are, really, even
yeah,
though I, for decades, have had now multidimensional experiences. I don't think I ever, and this goes back to the original thing about talking about Christmas,
yes.
is that we're unveiling ourselves to ourselves,
Beautiful,
right?
beautiful. This is the theme I've been channeling, this last week, over and over, is you do not know who you really are.
Yes, yes,
Yeah, yeah.
yeah. And I
Or
would say, particularly these months of November and December, the way I was shown it recently in the last couple days, is that I saw an image of I've seen various crystalline cities that exist now in alignment with this planet, and I've seen them a couple with my physical eyes, but my vibration doesn't stay consistently that high to be able to live on that plane,
sure.
but it's gone up enough that I visually, with my physical eyes, seen ETs, different beings. I see them with my third eye regularly.
Okay.
It's a trippy thing when you start
Sure,
seeing it with the physical eyes. It's
sure.
fucking wild. And
Yeah,
it
yeah.
it yeah, but I don't I my vibration, just like everybody else, I'm clearing shit,
Sure,
from the cells. And
sure.
but the way I was shown it recently, is I was few nights ago, I was taken to places where I've done grid keeping. In this case, it was southern France, and I saw, and the crystalline structures in southern France, they're just off the chart. They hardly got, you could hardly even veil them. They were so, and there's some in Ireland like that too. There's places in Ireland and France where the original codes are so accessible in nature. It's wild.
Where do you know where in Ireland you've seen those?
In County Kerry.
Okay,
I've not been around a lot of Ireland, but County
okay.
Kerry, off the charts,
Yeah, yeah.
crazy.
Well, we call it the Kingdom of Kerry.
Do you, yeah, well, that
Yeah,
it
yeah,
is that.
yeah.
I only spent a week there, and it prepared me for Africa. It prepared me for the higher dimensional frequencies I was gonna receive in Africa. And there are parts of Kerry that they never got shut down. They
Right.
carry the original creation frequency codes, and I felt like at different points I was just going to walk. I did walk through the veil, and I thought I was never going to come back at some points, but
Well, this is the great phrase in Ireland, "Away with the fairies,"
yes,
which
yeah.
which yeah, which obviously has happened. That's why it's in the language. Did you get out to Skellig Michael,
I
the
did not
island?
get out to, it's still on my to, I
Yes,
so much want to go.
mine
Yeah,
too. I
yeah.
didn't. I got an invitation once that I had no idea what it meant, but it was. That's brilliant. It's amazing to hear that. Skellig Michael was used in one of the Star Wars films.
I remember.
You
Yeah,
know, and
yeah.
so that energy went all over the world through those
And
films.
yeah,
Amazing.
there's such a transmission just from
Yeah,
seeing the photos of Skellig Michael. I
yeah,
mean, yeah, yeah.
cool, cool.
I don't remember where I was going with my narrative.
Yeah, I got you. Yeah, we got a little distracted, or I got us off track there, or
No, we're
whatever. But
good. It's good. Yeah.
perfect. Yeah. Well, again, Teresa, it's like you know, I mean, Shasta is one of the most powerful places on the planet that I've ever experienced, and it's. I've never gone to Telos. I've never met any Lemurians. I never, went away in a ship or anything. But of course, I mean, every time I was there, it was like, you're not on this earth. You're somewhere else. This
Yeah.
is this is a portal. You
Yeah.
know,
The
it's
the
huge.
it's so easy here to access the different dimensions.
Right.
And
Right.
I did a lot of my boot camp. That's what my guides used to call it when I was doing grid work. They'd send me here. I was living in Southern California at the time. And
Okay.
they would send me up here because it's so much easier to work with people here because there isn't any veil.
Yeah.
There you just get and you're just the magnetics are such that
Yeah.
if you're all sensitive, you feel it. And so
Sure.
they would send me here to I did some initial work in the Middle East remotely from Shasta. I thought they were sending me to Syria to open a Stargate. I really was literally preparing to go to the country of Syria to reopen a Stargate.
Bless
And
your heart.
I was
Yes.
scared. I was scared to death, but I was
Yeah.
willing to do it. And excuse me.
Bless you. Sure.
Yeah, I was willing to do it, but they said, well, first we're going to put you through boot camp on Shasta. And I came up here for a week. And in that time, then I was I basically was in Syria from here.
Okay.
And
Yeah.
how do you speak about these things? I don't know how to tell you. It's like, yes, there's a part of your body's on the mountain as best as I could tell because I was by myself a lot of the time. This is like 2014, 2015. I can't remember. And so I was still very, very newly conscious to the grid keeping and the stargates. And so I was walking up on the mountain in the snow alone, and they were giving me literally longitude and latitude coordinates for where this um, um, Stargate was near the border of Turkey, and I could see it through my third eye. And I'm simultaneously walking in the snow, and it's an old Stargate that was originally opened up by avian beings, and it goes to Aldebaran, to the star system Aldebaran. And
Okay.
I knew this, but
It's
I thought they were just giving me instructions about this is what it's going to look like when you're there. And I'm walking up the mountain, and but at the same time, I could see I'm in the desert. I'm in the Middle Eastern desert, and I could see what the physical nature of the place looked like, and I could hear them, the guides, talking to me. You're almost there. Hang in there, and we're gonna. And Teresa's mind was getting, oh, we're activating it from here,
yeah.
and there's a part of me that's simultaneously there.
Right.
And how you explain that shit, I don't know. But anyway, so I'm there. I can feel it open in my
Right.
field
Right.
because I'm aligned. We all have different DNA alignments and different magnetic functions that happen through that happen through our field. Most of us
Yeah.
just aren't aware of them. So
Yeah.
I see myself there at the physicality, and then I hear my guide say, "Don't worry, it won't hurt when the bullet hits." And boom,
Great.
I on that plane of reality, some rebel soldiers see me and kill me, and I'm out of the
Wow.
body.
Wow.
But so it was, but the Stargate was reactivated. So I don't know how you talk about this stuff. I haven't
You're doing
talked.
fine. You're doing fine.
I talk with other grid keepers and other people who do this kind of stuff, but it's just mind blowing to try to
Sure.
speak linearly of something that is actually not. It's happening
Yeah.
outside of the confines of time and space. So
Sure.
yeah, so that was the
Amazing.
beginning of my training. Um,
Amazing. Amazing. Yeah. Brilliant. Well, let me ask you, honey. I mean, I think you've got a blockbuster Hollywood screenplay in your life story there. It's Indiana Jones times 100, Um,
in
uh,
the,
you
just
know,
go ahead. I was going to
yeah,
say, in the middle of this, I am on a human level, just like everybody else, kind of like really, ever since I woke, all my psychic powers woke up in 2010. I sometimes functioning is hard in the human plane.
sure,
I've worked on so much buried trauma. I've
sure,
pieced my financial life together by gosh and by golly, and
sure.
so
As it relates
I
to
don't
that.
want to paint a picture of me that says like I'm this, you know,
Yeah,
um,
yeah,
yeah,
perfect, perfect gig.
that's it. Yeah.
I
I
understand.
Yeah,
Well,
yeah.
I can still love you for who you are,
Well,
right?
thank
That's
you.
yes. It's
I
a
hope
pleasure.
we I hope we do. That's part of my message, a part of my message of just being here, and when people ask me to speak, I do speak about this because we're holding all of these polarities and paradoxes within ourselves. And yes, are they coming into resolution? Are they coming into um by resolution, I mean complete acceptance. Like you said,
Yes,
we love
yes.
ourselves for every part of ourselves,
Yeah,
even the darkest shadow, even the
yeah,
part of us that's uh,
all of it,
use
all
yeah,
of it.
all of it, the
Yeah.
whole deal. And
Let me save you a sentence or two there, you know?
that's it,
That's
the whole enchilada.
yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
yeah, baby. Bless you, bless you. Yeah, but it's, I mean, to whom much is given, much is asked, right? And, when you're, bilocating between Mount Shasta and the Turkish border of Syria and getting shot, I'd say, well, that was a rough day at the office, you might want to treat yourself to an extra slice of pie that night.
Yeah, later that day though, I was, I think in a, it what I mean, yeah, I was in such a daze from the multidimensional experience, but the day went on, and I'll share a little bit more because I think it's worth sharing.
Yeah, please.
So I knew I was alive. I went into shock on the human level, and at the same time, there wasn't any pain.
Yeah,
There was like I didn't know how to process it, so but they had me keep walking up the mountain. I don't know if there was anybody whole there. Like, it was like my mind was blown at that point. I didn't
sure.
know how to deal with it, but I kept hearing the instructions, which was to go up to Panther Meadows, which at this point is buried in 12 feet of snow. And I'm walking on really packed snow. And I get called into the meadow, and
Yes, can I just say, I'd never seen 12 feet of snow before I went to Shasta in the
right?
winters.
I know, because you're Southern California guy,
Yeah.
right?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
But I
exactly.
mean, there's snow and there's 12 feet of snow.
That's
And
it.
yeah,
That's it.
it's
Yeah.
a different beast. It's a different thing altogether.
It
Yeah.
is, but this was a bright, sunny April day, and it was
Okay.
so it was really, I think I had a jacket on, fleece or something, but I was really warm and comfortable, and
All right.
um, but I was walking on 12 feet of packed snow, and anyway, I got called over to, and I had for a long time worked with bird beings, were my guides,
Okay.
avian
Okay.
beings, and among
Return,
others, I've had many
return,
guides.
return of
Pardon?
the bird tribe. I know Return of the Bird Tribes, Ken Carey. Yeah.
Yeah, the thing is people ask me about these books or these teachers. I never read it. I just got it
Yeah.
directly. So,
I'm
um,
just I'm just telling you what it looks like from the library. You're having the experience. So carry on.
so I got called up to the meadow, and I hear very clearly. And there are all these different stands of pine trees and cedars and firs, and I get called over to one particular stand of 6 fir trees, and they're in a circle. And the snow is so high but in the middle of that circle, there's no snow because of the branches kept the
Yes.
snow on. So there's this big bowl,
Well,
um, and I get the instruction to climb into that bowl, and
okay.
it's very very narrow among the 6 trees. And
Right.
I had
12,
been
12
working with,
feet,
say
12
again.
feet, 12 feet deep.
Well, the bowl wasn't 12 feet deep,
Okay.
but because of the
All right.
branches had kept some of the snow, so it was probably about 5 feet deep, but I did climb in,
All right.
and, and there wasn't even any snow on the ground in the bowl, but it was a
Oh,
tight squeeze among these 6 trees, and I had been working with 6 specific bird beings, and
okay.
they had told me things that I couldn't comprehend, but they had me get in this bowl, and I'm literally squeezed by these beautiful, amazing fir trees. And I'm so tired, and I'm not sure who Theresa is because I just saw a version of myself killed. And
Yeah.
I'm
Traumatized.
standing in between among these 6 trees. And the guides say, "This is us," like meaning the bird beings.
Oh,
And then they showed me that I'm very avian in my DNA. That's not my only DNA, but it's very bird-like. And they said, "Can you see?" They showed me then how those 6 trees are like the 6 beings, and they've been using my field to dock into the Earth's atmosphere, the Earth
yeah.
dimension. And they showed me how we had never been separate from birth.
Wow.
And that basically I was like not one, I
Yeah.
wasn't just Teresa, I was these 7 beings as one. This was
Wow.
my consciousness. And then they showed me how it went up and up and up and up and up, the fractals of God coming
Mhm.
down into this illusion of separation. And so
Mhm.
they showed how the 6 of the beings docked into my field so that we operated as one consciousness, and then it went up and up and up and up. And in that moment, I just that was it. My mind it was blown.
Yeah.
And, I don't I don't know how I functioned after that, but I was living in Ojai at the time in Southern
Wow.
California. I took a plane back to LA the next day, and I had this little garage studio, and I sat in there, and I couldn't speak for a month
Wow. Bless you.
because I already remembered from birth that we weren't separate. I feel it very viscerally in my body, but
Right.
this one just like blew out all
Right.
the circuitry
Right.
that
Right.
yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, that
Well, my circuitry's blown out listening to it. If it's any consolation, I mean, my God, that is absolutely phenomenal.
yeah, and it's the truth of all of us, right? I mean,
Hmm. Hmm.
it's like, but it's so shrouded through our neurochemistry, through our DNA, through the we literally devised, blocks in our DNA so we
Yeah.
would not be able to access these parts of us. And that's what this incredible purge we're going through layer by layer, year after year, is we've been releasing those blocks and allowing the original crystalline DNA to activate. And
Yeah.
as we do that, we have more and more experiences of the truth.
Sure.
And, yeah.
Wow. Stunning, staggering, overwhelming. Um,
And that's us. I mean,
yeah.
you
Yeah.
know, I
Yeah.
mean, on the human level, I think a lot of times one of the reasons why there are lots of reasons why we create or co-create disasters or hard times or loss of money, loss of health is
Tragedy. Christ.
tragedy.
Yeah.
On the Even though those are extraordinarily painful things, and I've been through a lot of them myself.
Bless you.
Um, what happens is that in the midst of our loneliness and our aloneness and our despair, is that people come to us and they hold us, or they bring a meal to us, or they help us find a place to live,
Sure.
or they
Yeah.
take care of our kids when we can't get out of bed,
Yeah. Yeah.
or and in that way, it's an extraordinary thing to be human because we learn so viscerally about what it means to not just be separate being.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Someone might have felt your pain from the fire, from you losing
Yeah.
all your things in the
Yeah.
fire, right? And they rally to,
Oh yeah.
and often people that don't have much themselves,
Oh
right?
yeah. Oh yeah.
That's been my experience, is that extraordinary generosity has
Yeah.
come my way from
Sure.
people who had only this, like literally
Yeah.
didn't own anything,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And that is also a function of oneness, right?
Sure.
That is also of us remembering, even though we might not be able to see it, even though we might not hear from our bird guides or whatever, that is no less powerful or important
Sure.
than what I've been through. And
Sure, honey.
so we're showing each other that,
Yeah.
hopefully, on a
Yeah,
daily
yeah.
basis. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, that's beautiful. Yeah, I agree. No, that's brilliantly put. Love is all there is, and when we get overwhelmed and disconnected from ourselves and distracted by the world, that's when we need to remember that the most. And as you're saying, it's Lazarus has a powerful phrase. He says, "Compassion is the care that's born out of sorrow." And it's like you're saying, the suffering that we endure, softens, opens, and deepens us, is my guide's phrase. To give more and to love more and to strive to share more and to be more. And I mean, I just honestly, I really want to say thank you for taking the time to share all this from your heart so deeply today. My sense about things is, we're about to go over Niagara Falls in a barrel, and
Feels that way, doesn't it? It does to
yeah,
me too. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
this is pretty much what Aluna's channeling from the elders is saying as well. And so, yeah, we all, Lazarus calls us the map makers. And,
Mm.
and as you said in your beautiful retelling of your incredible experiences here, your faith is what carries you through these unbearable and mysterious initiations, that we all go through. And there's that, on the one level there's just being human, and the shit and the sadness and the chaos and the confusion and all of that. And then in the other part of our life, there is this grace and this magic and these miracles and these higher beings and these angels. And we're like, we have a foot in each world, is the way my guides
We
put it.
do. We do. We do. Um, and you know, the beauty there's in the other dimensional experiences, you don't get to put your mouth on a ripe, crisp apple, and dig in and have that juice just explode on your tongue and and when you reach for your lover at night and you wrap your legs around each other, or it is an extraordinary,
Yeah, it's a
sometimes painful and joyful and concentrated experience to have been in these bodies the way
Mm,
we are. Yeah,
absolutely. It's poignant. It's precious. Yeah, yeah,
precious. Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
I always, when I first started hearing, consciously knowing, okay, I'm not making this up, and because
Right.
I'd always been hearing, but I was just, yeah, but
I'm not crazy. This is really happening.
it was really happening.
Yes, yes.
And I became more conscious of, like, oh, there are all these other beings on the planet that are getting the same information as me. There's this, yes, we get different pieces and stuff like that, but it fits together. There's this consistent narrative of people who've had
Yes,
near death experiences and who channel
yes,
and
yeah,
all kinds of things. And
yes.
anyway, but the it,
No, it's a great point. I love what
what
you're saying. Yes.
what my guides would say is that at that point they would say, it's like you're in a carnival, you're on a, what do you call it, like a Disneyland or whatever,
Right.
and you're never going to go back to these carnival rides again. And so in this last pass through, you're going to ride all your favorite rides and
Right,
meet
right.
all your favorite friends and characters,
Yeah,
and it is like that,
yeah.
and some of the rides are hellish.
Sure, sure. But again, it's like, I mean, the uh, you know, uh, so I had my Thanksgiving dinner here last night with my Irish friend, Peter, who
Nice.
has spent a lot of time in the States. And he turned out to be the one person that was free for dinner. So we had a lovely, lovely time. We're just getting to know each other. He's a beautiful, beautiful guy, and I'm just loving our connection. But so there's an Irish thing, a storyteller is called a Shanachie. That's the
Uh,
Celtic name. Yeah.
uh,
And you see, it's just really, I mean, so I want to share that with you, my dear friend. That's what I feel you're gifting, blessing us with here today, and blessing me with here today, which is, you're telling us the stories of what, the experience of living in a more expanded conscious than most people live, what that provides. Yeah, not greater or lesser, not to give it to the ego, but to just recognize you've been to some places I haven't been yet. And thank you for sharing with me what these places look like and what your experience of these places has been. Because as you just said a moment ago, I mean, I've been listening to a lot of people's near-death experiences recently for no conscious reason. Just the sense of multidimensionality and the integrity of our soul and spirit and higher self, and needing to get deeply, as deeply aligned to that, the feeling of that, and the truth of that as possible. So yeah, there's a real, there's a huge blessing you're giving me here by sharing your experiences. Thank you.
yeah, and at the same time, I'm sure you have experiences that I don't, and it's kind of like we give each other travel logs about
Sure.
what does it mean to live from the heart, and the carnival rides and the places you've traveled to different than me and still
Sure.
beautiful, right? Because they're still part of the even though it doesn't seem like it's multidimensional, it is like what you experience through your lenses of senses is still no one's gone where Lou has gone.
Sure. Everyone's, yeah, no, I take your point. Everyone's experience is valid and helpful and necessary. And whatever happens, there is a higher purpose for everything that happens. And that's been a new revelation this last year. Nothing is happening to me, everything is happening for me. And what is the gift of this? What's the opportunity? What's the teaching,
That's
of these experiences, etc.
that's
So yeah, that's a whole different way of walking and talking. Absolutely.
it is,
You
yeah,
know,
yeah, yeah, and it doesn't mean
beautiful.
that it like, I still experience physical pain and I still experience discomfort,
Yeah,
but
yeah,
it is different when you really do integrate, "Oh, this is for me." There's some
yeah,
it's in service to me in some way,
yeah,
and,
yeah.
yeah, I remember it's been many years ago now, but, mm, well, I can't remember what year. But it was after I went through an intensification of my psychic abilities in 2010, and a couple years after that, I moved out to California, and shortly afterwards, I filed for bankruptcy because the first 2 years of my awakening, I think it's amazing I didn't go to the loony bin because I would see so much every day, and I didn't know how to regulate it, and it was so much like past life trauma and
Wow.
I would be
Yeah,
I would cry so hard I'd want to throw up. But anyway, so
that's
I basically couldn't function at all for the first 2 years.
yes. Yeah. Yeah, honey, you were talking about having 20 or 30 visions a day. I remember we were
Yeah,
talking about.
yeah. And by the time I got out here, I didn't it wasn't like massive amount of credit card debt, but I had tried to work at my old business, which was selling rare books, antique books. And
Okay.
I I did work at it, and I lost a lot of money. Like, when I moved out here, I maybe had $25,000 of credit card debt that I just there
Mhm.
was no way I could pay. I didn't have a regular income. I was the last bit of cash I needed to eat with and pay rent,
Sure,
and
sure,
so
sure.
I called all my credit cards and said, "I can't do this." And later
Right.
on, some collection agency came after me, and, I had let go of the guilt and I knew I had done my best. I knew it
Sure.
was a miracle I had survived, and
Yes.
I didn't have money and there was no way for me to pay it. So anyway, I knew I had to file bankruptcy. And when the collection agency or whatever, like they give you a legal form to say,
Right.
we're going to sue you for this. And my housemate at the time, she said, Teresa, there's somebody here. They're going to serve you papers. She said, do you want me to get them for you? And I said, no, no, it's okay. But I was still in my pajamas. And um,
Right.
so she said, no, no, I'll get them. Don't worry about it. She
Right.
knew what the situation was. And she brought the papers to me. And in that moment, even though I wasn't scared, but I had no idea how I was even going to afford bankruptcy, let alone, paying
Sure.
the debt. So
Yeah.
she
Yeah.
hands the papers to me, and I hear really clearly, "This too is love. Receive it as such. This too is love. Receive it as such." And I had gone through a lot of guilt and
Yeah. Yeah.
shame. And at that point, I had cleared a lot of that. And, there are many lifetimes we're clearing, lifetime after lifetime of these games. And when I heard that, that was like the last of the shame and guilt that I cried.
Okay.
And so
Right.
I just say that because that's just one little piece of my life where
Sure.
I've been incredibly humbled,
Sure.
by and and heard very clearly, this
Yeah.
too is love. Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah. And
It's a
so,
deep message and you received it,
yeah,
you let it in.
it's not easy always though. I've been
Really?
through some other
Oh,
things that I was
yeah.
not nearly as gracious. I'm fuck you, fuck
Sure, kicking and screaming. Yeah, we all take that route, on all hands and knees, shaking my fist at the ceiling with the
you.
tears streaming down my face.
That's it.
Been there, been there, been there. A river of tears. Yeah,
That's it. That's it.
yeah. But again, darling, it's just a joy and a relief to realize, that this too shall pass, and there's a gift there if you're willing to find it. And we've had a lot of help and a lot of support and a lot of grace, and we're willing to find it. And isn't that the message we want everyone to take away from a talk like this?
Yeah. Yeah. And it is. That's it. And it does crack our defenses open. It cracks open all those guards we put up on our heart to survive. And bless our hearts because we often needed them as children to survive intact because most of us took on really traumatic childhoods. And
Sure.
to clear ancestrally, and then all of those protection mechanisms have to go. And
Yeah,
it's humbling on every level.
yeah. Yeah. Well, bless you. I mean, again, like your incredible story of, thinking you were shot, experiencing yourself getting literally killed. You know,
That's just
um,
one of many deaths I've seen, yeah.
I'm sure. Just another death experience. No worries. I'll show you mine if you show me yours. Absolutely.
You just
Uh,
have to laugh at it after a while, really. I mean,
sure.
it's hysterical. Yeah.
Yes. Well, it's like Groundhog Day, you
Mhm.
know, uh, the Bill
It
Murray
is.
film where he
It
dies at the
is.
end of the day.
Yeah, it really is a lot like that. I mean, that's in lots of ways how we set up the matrix. So,
Huh, huh.
yeah, we were amazing creators, and I still am amazed at how we've hidden ourselves from ourselves. Like, that's
Huh.
the genius of that. You could call it Machiavellian genius, but the genius of the game of separation is very clever. Um, and
Yes.
we are unwrapping. We are the Christmas present. We're
Yeah.
just like
Yeah.
unwrapping ourselves for ourselves right now. Yeah,
Right.
yeah.
Right.
And
Right.
so, yeah, I don't keep
Beautiful.
that. Like every day, I don't have that childlike wonder. But when I don't have it for a while, I miss it, and I'm like, oh, okay, course correction, Teresa.
Sure.
Correct your attitude.
Sure. Well, again, darling, that's why we're chatting here. I mean, your experience with the Who's down in Whoville and the Grinch who wanted to steal Christmas because he thought Christmas was about gifts and he didn't know it was about love. It just, I mean, my happy inner child just went, Wow, somebody to play with, at this deep and innocent level.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah,
uh, I mean, I honestly do believe that is, that the future for humanity, fifth dimension and beyond, the end of this decade and beyond, is my sense of things, is really truly joyous and ecstatic.
mhm,
And that's the challenge. Like we're saying, is yes, there is fear and pain and sorrow and grief and heartache, and there's also moving beyond that and loving life and loving ourselves and you know
that's it,
uh, appreciating it, being grateful,
that's it, exactly, that's
falling
it,
in love with it every day.
that's it, yeah,
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 beautiful.
yeah, yeah, and
Bless you.
yeah, well, and I'm so blessed. Thank you, and you too. I'm so blessed by many people in my life that when I um, can't see past my own conditioning, that they're just right there, and not to try and shut down any grief or fear, or I don't feel fear so much anymore, but I do still feel grief and frustration, like, 'cause
Sure.
I get these ideas about what it's gonna look like, and then it doesn't look like that, and "Fuck you," you know? I have quite an anger. I have
Oh,
quite a
you're the only one. Yeah, you're the only one, I promise.
but the grace there is that when we're in community with people to have them, or do you do this show for people, and so they can tune in and they can not feel alone, and we know, okay, today I feel like a piece of crap. And yet there's my friend at my door, and we're going to have tea. And, she brings her kindness and her heart. And she's not trying to get me out of this mood. She's not trying to make me bad or wrong. She's just like, I hear you, honey. I know.
Yeah,
And, and that just complete acceptance of where we are moment by moment by moment.
yeah,
Um, without attaching to it or solidifying around it and saying things will never get better, but not shutting it down,
sure.
that is a magic combination.
Yes, yes, yes. No, I hear you loud and clear, sister. There's a scene between Oprah Winfrey and Eckhart Tolle when he was doing his New Earth book with her, which I redid, uh, with some people last year. And Oprah says, "So when are we going to heal the human ego?" And Eckhart says, "That is what we are doing right now." You know, it's
That's
like
it.
you know these you and I have been so blessed because we have some idea of what's happening on the planet, and
Yes.
we have some idea of what we can do about it,
Yeah.
and we have some access to other beings, other aspects of ourselves who are ready, willing, and available to help us to move through our stuff.
That's it.
Those are I'm sure I could find other uh, bestowments of grace that we've received. That's a lot right there.
It is a lot right there. And I think the other thing that amazes me is, you and I, we have a community with this ascension story. But it doesn't have to be our exact story. There are people on the planet with very different beliefs and philosophies, and yet they're awakened in their heart.
Yeah,
And that's all any of us need is
absolutely.
to move out of the conditioning of the mind and the control
Yeah,
here. And that's easier said than done. But I
yeah,
think that's one thing that constantly amazes me these days is that like in Shasta, there's a ton of spiritual woo-woo people. It's a small town though. It's
yes,
3,500.
yes.
So there's
What's Siskiyou? Is that the name of the town?
Siskiyou County. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And there's plenty of us woo-woo people, but there's also ranchers and,
Oh, yeah.
farmers,
Regular people.
very
Yeah.
regular people, and
Yes.
some of the kindest people that you meet, just like, and that, I mean, people don't have to believe any of the stories I'm telling. Really, it doesn't matter. The idea is we're showing up for each other from the heart,
Yeah.
and and
Oh, yeah.
realizing that what happens to you also happens to me.
Sure.
And
Sure. Yeah. Yeah, honey. I mean, really, these are fantastic stories. I have to tell you, just absolutely right up there with Lord of the Rings and Harry Potter and Indiana Jones, as I said earlier. Uh, but what really, of course, what's so inspiring about them, Theresa, is that you are such a loving soul, and these stories, as you tell them, the purpose of them is so that you can love and help people to love more, and help the earth to be more loved, and help the earth to help us to awaken to the power of love.
Yeah.
you know I
So
mean, that's what it's all about. Everything else is details.
everything else is details,
Yeah.
and it's so, I mean, I can do a lot of spiritual speak. It was a very meaningful part of my remembrance of who I am, had to do with a lot of spiritual stories, and uh, s- uh, a farmer or a plumber that goes out into nature and might catch fish, or take their canoe on the lake, and they're just silent in that, surrounded by forest and wild animals. And um, there's so many ways of
Sure.
remembrance of who we
Sure.
are. Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure. um
And I'm as humbled by that in people, not how they remembered, but that they remembered, you know.
yeah.
And um, I've found I used to be much more uppity about it, or think I had the ideas or the ways or whatever, and I've realized I just had this journey. This was just mine. Apparently, this is how my soul wanted to play.
Sure.
But um,
Yeah.
there's so
Beautiful.
many people now coming to their
Yeah.
hearts,
Yeah.
and realizing how we do need each other,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
which is that's a human, what's the word I'm looking for? Interdependency is very different than either like a trauma based independence or a codependence.
Sure.
That's very different. But nature and human beings, we're interdependent because we're all part of the same ecosystem. We're
Yeah.
all one living, breathing organism, which is
Yeah.
Gaia.
Yeah, honey. I hear you, sister. I've been saying for even before the fire, which, definitely got my attention.
Right.
I was saying this: we are going to need each other more than we have ever needed each other in
That's
our
right.
lives.
That's right.
And there's no shame in that. Like we're
Yeah.
saying, that's a gift, and
It
often, it's a blessing. When we can help each other and lift each other up, it's a huge blessing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Beautiful.
My dream has always been, and I have had experiences with this since my awakening, is to really live more consciously in community, and that can happen anywhere. It doesn't have to be some big spiritual community, but to be planted in one place or have one home base, and to be able to experience both the interdependency of our humanity and also the heightened consciousness what that happens when you get together, with heart-centered people and live with heart-centered people. And
Yes.
I always thought it would look one particular way, um, and maybe it will still. Maybe it'll look like certain centers or living centers or land that people share. But I'm discovering this is happening everywhere, regardless of what people's ideology are. It's like you said, we need each other. And so those people who haven't completely shut down their hearts are starting to find each other, and
Yeah.
maybe they will share a house, maybe they won't, but you'll find people sharing all kinds of other things,
Sure. 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 Yeah. Yeah. And there's great grace in that.
extraordinary
Um,
grace. Yeah.
the joke from my guides is we all are here to learn to build a bridge and get over ourselves.
Isn't that the truth? I mean,
It's
yeah,
totally true.
it's
Yeah,
totally
honey. And
true.
I mean, I'm delighted that you're laughing because it's like, yeah, it's
It's the
so
truth.
obvious, so simple.
It is, and yet,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah, and yet,
Well,
yeah.
it is, and it's. I mean, I love one of the lines from Abraham where she says, "It's right where you left it." You know, nothing heals or grows or forgives by itself. Whatever, as you've been saying there, sweetheart. All this ancestral experience of collective healing of karma, and I mean, certainly we haven't even touched on this, but the magic potion in everyone's arm and the magical thinking that's driven everyone to get the magic potion. God give us strength. We never in our lives imagined we'd be dealing with something on this scale, like living in a science fiction novel.
It is pretty mind blowing, and at the same time, for me personally, I haven't had I haven't taken the magic potion, nor do I intend to, and I see all the levels and layers of manipulation and control, and for me, I've been called to also not make that wrong.
Sure,
And
sure.
so it's a trip to hold all of that
Yeah,
play of
yeah,
separation and duality,
yeah,
and also say
yeah,
what a perfect experience some people have co-created together
yeah,
to
yeah,
bring them home,
yeah,
or also there's so many reasons why people get the vax. There's so many vibrational selections
sure.
among our everyone, and so to
Yeah,
watch that play out without judgment of anyone, and simultaneously see the different agendas at play, and there are a lot of different agendas at
yeah,
play.
yeah.
To hold that with equanimity is it's a trippy time. It's a really trippy time to
Yes.
know that each soul is crafting for themselves the exact experience that they wanted to have from a higher level,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
it
Okay.
can look like a shit show. And
Sure,
yeah,
sure.
and
The-
and and also I've created a bunch of experiences in my life that were shit shows
Sure,
to
hon.
bring me home, bring me home,
Sure,
bring me home.
sure. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, no, let he who is without sin cast the first stone. There's not much stones to be thrown from that
not
from
from
that.
my side. Believe me,
Yeah,
and anyone who knows me knows I couldn't throw any stones
well,
because
yeah. I mean, um, the quote from my guides is, "No one can take your power from you. You can only give it away, and no one can give you your freedom. You have to take it because it's yours."
that's it. That's it.
You know, that's to me the heart of the paradox. And as you're saying, I can love you, but I can't do it for you. And you can love me, but you can't do it for me.
Mhm.
All we can do is try to be examples of what in our hearts we believe is helpful and true, you
Yeah.
know? Yeah.
And so many times I've eschewed my own power. I've denied it,
Sure. We've
I've
all done
not,
it. Yeah.
yeah, so many times. And it just gets like we get to subtler and subtler layers of the old separation patterning, and none of them get to survive.
Yeah, yeah. Well, just to circle back here briefly, what I love what you were just touching on is this enlightened sense of community, and enlightened group consciousness is what my guides call it, which is each of us are sovereign and responsible, and then we can hold a space for grace for other people to find what works for them. I mean, kind of, anarchy in the political and spiritual sense of the term, where everyone's their own master and no one
That's
has control over anyone else, nor does anyone need control over anyone else.
that's it, and it's part of why I still hold that dream of places where people can go either to live or to visit, because there still needs to be certain containers to allow extraordinary experimentation with choice, freedom, sovereignty. And what does this look like? And we're going to step on each other's toes. There's no way around that. We're going to trigger each other. We're going to get to the deepest, darkest parts of our separation patterning in community,
Yeah,
because these patterns didn't happen out of nowhere. They
yeah,
were they were formed in our conditioning, in
Yeah,
tribe, in
yeah,
community,
yeah,
and they get first they get unraveled here on the individual level, and then they start unraveling in our relationships,
yeah,
intimate partnerships, larger family, community, tribe,
yeah.
planet, and
Beautiful,
we're
beautiful.
still working on that.
Yeah,
And it has to, that process really needs to be taken out of a hierarchy.
mm,
I might facilitate with people, and that's a beautiful thing. I love that.
mhm,
But even and I'm so grateful for the money that I earn, or that's
yeah,
shared, exchanged.
go
And
ahead.
some of these processes need to be taken out of those hierarchical contexts. They need to happen, um, where no one's the expert, where no one's the guru, and that's part of the expansion of experimenting in new earth, right?
Sure,
Yeah,
sure. Yeah,
yeah,
yeah. Do you know, beautiful, beautiful. I mean, to me, that this is the divine feminine. This is the mother love of the tribe, and everyone being inherently equal, and we all take a turn. In sharing our wisdom and our experience and our skills, and then we step back, and then we give up somebody else their turn. You know,
that's it. Yeah,
yeah,
yeah, yeah. And the masculine offers, whether that's within us, or external, but the masculine principle though offers some structure for that flow, because that flow and inspiration is gorgeous, but like the ocean, it needs a shore. It needs to
sure,
be, otherwise we're just like, there's nothing grounded, and
sure,
there's nothing focused or contained. And so
sure.
um, but the feminine did have to, in a sense, lead that first, because so much of the old structures were rigid control
Yeah,
mechanisms, and
yeah,
they had to come down first.
yeah,
And now we're all of us are learning more of that flow, or that non-hierarchical
yeah,
exchange. And
yeah,
yet there is a place for the masculine in all of us, the divine masculine in all of us, to hold that and to focus that flow. And
sure.
that power, that merge of those two combinations are amazing, what we can create from that.
Yes. Yes. Well, that is creation itself.
It is. Yeah.
All creation has to come from that sacred marriage.
Yeah.
You know, and if there isn't that sacred marriage, creation doesn't happen. I was even thinking of who is it, Riane Eisler, back in my
Yeah.
bookshop. Riane Eisler,
Yeah.
the Chalice and the Blade. Back in my bookstore days,
Yeah.
I met her, and she had a
Mhm.
reading, and she was saying, "Look, folks, the feminine's been going on for thousands and thousands of years. The masculine is just a blip on the screen, because if it's too out of balance, it always collapses in on itself."
It
And
does.
we have a front row seat to watch that unfold one more time at the
We
moment.
do. We do. For sure. For sure. Yeah.
Mr. Big Stuff, who do you think you are?
Yeah, and the thing is that we all have that though in us, though,
Sure,
that
sure,
distorted masculine control. Because I know so many women, we work on it too. I work on it all the time.
sure,
You know.
sure. Yes, yes, that's right. But again, the absolutely, it's not, I mean, darling, I love your deep sense of egalitarianism and compassion and inclusiveness. I really hear that very, very powerfully, and it's very beautiful, and it's very sacred. We definitely we're on the same page about the bigger details of all of this, because of course, how could we not be? Because I mean, my awakening took place when I was 30, and my life has been utterly radically different since that time forward. And spirit has been more than just a concept; it's a living, breathing reality every day of my life.
Yeah, I know it is.
These are the things that they teach us. These are the things, the wisdom that they're bringing back to the earth through us, and millions of other people like us.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
very humbling.
It is so humbling. I mean, that's amazing. It's this weird paradox of going,
Yeah,
oh my God, I'm spirit itself. and I'm not separate from God, and I never was. And then also just being a total asshole at times, or or
Being
just
human,
confused, or like the
being human.
whole being human. Yeah,
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 darling, being human. So my guides, bless your heart, I love you madly. My guides say, so there's your humanity and there's your divinity, and they must work together. Like we're saying, sacred marriage.
yeah,
The divinity really is more the feminine, because that, to my mind, because that is the emotion and the spirit,
yeah.
which is mysterious and hidden,
Mhm.
and then it reveals itself through the masculine, the body and the mind,
Form.
and expression,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
So, but yes, when we're together, we're unstoppable and unbeatable, and that's what you and I are beating the drum for here on planet Earth in 2021 as we come down the home stretch.
Yeah, or just
Thank you.
spazzing out about, or whatever. I don't know if I beat any drums but anymore, but
I didn't
yeah.
see any spazzing out since we've been chatting here.
I know, I
You
guess.
haven't shared the spaz out yet.
Yeah, yeah. No,
Bless you.
I'm so, not a evangelist anymore, although I have been in my lifetime. But I think I've been so humbled. I see the perfection in everyone's journey now, that, like, I don't need, um I mean, there are places where I can still get hooked, particularly in personal relationship, but, overall, don't need anyone to do anything differently, because I see the perfection of their own
Sure,
homecoming. Mhm.
sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I hear you, hon. I mean, it's like we're saying here, the more willing we are to heal our own pain and fear, and you said fear is something you're not dealing with much at the moment, which is great. Bless your heart. I feel like I moved through a lot in the last year, you know, but it can still definitely come up at times, but the more we can allow spirit to work with us and through us, then, boom, it's just a bump in the road and on we go. It's not a big
And
deal.
and I dealt with plenty of fear, so, like,
Sure,
years of it just getting
sure,
flushed out, flushed out, flushed out.
sure,
And so we all get it in our perfect timing. We have all
sure,
the survival stuff come up. Yeah,
sure, honey, sure. Well,
yeah.
the more we love and accept ourselves and each other, I'm sure the happier God got us all that is, and I'm sure the more intimacy and adventures we will have with the Who's down in Whoville and the Grinch and all our Lemurian friends and our angels and archangels, etc. Yeah,
Truly, yeah,
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 yeah.
yeah.
Bless you.
Bless
Well,
you.
thank you, sweetheart. Shall we leave it there for the
Bless
moment?
Yeah, I'm good with that. Thank you so much for with indulging my stories, and
Oh, you can come indulge next to me anytime you like, my friend. It's a pleasure.
Oh,
Yes,
good. I'm
thank
so
you.
glad.
Likewise.
Blessings to you.
Thank you, sweetheart. Thanks so much. Where can people find you if they want to work with you and reach
You know,
out?
I shut down my, I was guided to shut down my website last year, and so
Right?
I am, although I am still seeing clients, they can find me on Facebook,
Okay.
or email me, Theresa Luttenegger at gmail.com, THERESA.LUTTENEGGER at Gmail.
Yes. What's the ethnic? Thank you. What's the ethnic origin of that beautiful
It's
name?
Isn't that a mouthful?
Yes.
Swiss. It's Swiss.
There you
Mhm.
go.
Yeah.
I'm glad I asked. I couldn't place it. So
How I know, right?
yeah,
It's something
yeah.
else.
It's
Yeah.
perfect for you. You're something else too. So there you go. Yeah, that's you. All right, sweetheart. Have a wonderful. Yes, I know I'm terrible. Have a wonderful day. Bless
Thanks
your
to
heart. I love
you.
you madly, and we'll talk to
Oh,
you soon.
oh.
Okay.
See you later.
All right, sweetie. Thanks a million.
Okay.
All
Thank
right.
you.
You're welcome.
Bye-bye.
Bye for now.